Hello there and welcome. This is Mikhail or Michael speaking. As always, I want to say thank you all who decided to support me financially, be it through PayPal, Patreon, or Super Thanks. Today's video I will start with so-called Vremivka tactical bridgehead, where throughout last 24 hours some interesting things have happened. Yesterday I've reported that Russians have launched their counter-attack here in this sector, and the first part of this video will be talking about results of that counter-attack. I will be using Syriac maps once again because this map was recently updated. As you can see, Makarivka had come under the gray zone. So, being unable to penetrate Russian lines in the Vremivka tactical bridgehead forced Ukrainian forces to bring fresh reinforcements and attack once again, which resulted in Ukrainians counter-attacking and gaining territories around the settlements and then capturing the settlements themselves. As they captured more and more settlements, the intensity of those attacks grew to a point where Ukrainians started attacking towards Urozhaine and Staromayorsk, as well as forcing Russians out of Makarivka. With that, they also attacked to the west of the Vremivka tactical bridgehead towards Novodarivka and Livadne. Both of those settlements are now under Ukrainian control. With attacks on the flanks, they increased a direct approach as well and attacked straight on, which put Russian defensive line at immense pressure. The situation was somewhat dire, and Russians decided to change the whole dynamic by counter-attacking Ukrainian forces. Most of their attack was happening here near Makarivka, where they counter-attacked Ukrainians, and as some reports suggest, they also attacked here across the open field to the west of Novodonetsk. Result of that counterattack is still unclear. The fog of war is extremely thick here, but it is clear that the settlement of Makarivka changed hands all throughout this attack, at least several times. So there are a lot of action happening here as of right now. Let's quickly look at the settlement of Makarivka to see the reasons why this settlement is heavily contested at this point in time. So as you can see, the settlement is located to the west of the Mokry Yali River, which is an advantage to the Russians. The fact that Makarivka is located right in front of a tactical height that is at this point controlled by the Russians also give Russians an upper hand and allow them to establish full fire control over the settlement. But again, due to the fact that Makarivka is located in the lowlands, both Russians and Ukrainians can easily shell the settlement, easily destroying troops within it. At this point in time, Ukrainians claiming control over the settlement. Here's the photo of that. However, I'm not sure after which attack this photo was taken. Once again, the settlement changed hands a few times all throughout last 24 hours. We will stay here as well, as some reports suggest that now fighting is taking place very close to the settlement of Urozhaine and Staromayorsk. It would seem that Russian attack did not achieve its initial goal here in this sector. It is unclear how close Ukrainians got to those settlements, but reports suggest that Russians are not retreating and are fighting back. So there is no rout by the Russian forces here in this sector. Then let's visit the western flank of this tactical bridgehead, and again we can see that Russians lost control over Livadne and Novodarivka. Those are very small settlements. For example, Livadne is basically a farmstead, while Novodarivka is a small settlement that is about one street long. What gives Ukrainian advantage is that there is a road that leads from Novodarivka right towards a bigger settlement of Priutne. It has been reported that now Ukrainians are fighting towards that settlement, attacking from Livadne and attacking from Novodarivka by using the road. There is no Ukrainian breakthrough reported as of right now. You can see that Russian positions here on this flank could be compromised if Ukrainians would achieve more success here. So we might expect Russians retreating from Rivnopil and falling back to this natural defensive line along the river. But Russians, I'm sure, will hold to this tactical height as long as they are controlling Urozhaine and Staromayorsk. If Ukrainians will be able to break through here, Russian positions here could be compromised. If Ukrainians will be able to break through here, Russian positions within Staromayorsk and Urozhaine will be compromised. But again, the most important fight is happening here on these tactical heights. For the better understanding of what I'm going to tell you now, I will use Weeb Union's map, as he recently added a Russian defensive lines. So thanks a lot for that. It helps to understand the situation. So as you can see, this is the first Russian defensive line, the first real Russian defensive line. Its unofficial name is Surovikin line, and as you can see, fighting is happening very far away from it, and Ukrainians didn't even come close to attacking it directly. Now, it's not to say that Russians don't have any defensive line all across the front line. They do, it's just they have a much stronger defensive line here in the rear. And this is the interesting thing that is developing. From what I heard by visiting some of the Russian resources, is that technically Russia can allow the loss of this tactical bridgehead. As you can see, the bridgehead starts at the outskirts of the first main Russian fortress in this sector, and even so, it is still pretty far away from the main Russian defensive line, and the mission of the Russian forces within this bridgehead is to grind down and destroy as much Ukrainian forces as possible until they reach Surovikin line. As of right now, it would seem that this mission is being successful. It's been almost a week of heavy fighting, and to this day, Ukrainian army still cannot penetrate Russian lines to a point where Russians will be forced to retreat. So in conclusion, Ukrainians are unable to defeat Russian army at this point in time. I think it would be safe to say that although Russian counterattack did not achieve any gains, it did slow down Ukrainian counteroffensive, made them lose steam, and overall I think Russian counterattack bought Russians few more days. And again, as Russians are fighting here in the Vremivka tactical bridgehead, every day counts. But again, it's important to say that fighting is still continuous in Makarivka. It is very unclear whether Ukrainians are controlling this settlement or not. So this is all I have to say about the recent Ukrainian-Russian counterattack. If you have something to add, or you disagree or maybe agree, please consider go into the comment section and telling me what you think. Although I don't answer to all of the comments, I read them all. Let's quickly talk about Ukrainian endeavors elsewhere. For example, they tried to attack from Gulay-Pole in the direction of Dorozhnyanka. No territorial gains reported. There were also attacks from the Orikhiv and Novodanilivka towards Rabotina. Ukrainians are trying to penetrate Russian lines here in this sector for a long time, at least a week, unsuccessfully. Situation in Lobkova remains exactly the same. Settlement of Lobkova still remains in a gray zone, with Ukrainians occasionally attacking in the direction of Pitikhatki and Lugova. No territorial changes are reported here on this front. From here, let's quickly visit other front lines. Again, Ukrainians tried to attack Russians in Krasnogorovka, Novobakhmutivka, Vadyani, and Apitne. Once again, those attacks were unsuccessful. The situation in Bakhmut is also stable for both Russians and Ukrainians. Ukrainians are unable to penetrate Russian defensive line on the flanks as of right now. It is funny because Ukrainian sources are being reporting that every day Ukrainians are liberating more and more lands in Bakhmut and around Bakhmut. However, reality does not reflect that in any way whatsoever. Even pro-Ukrainian map like Deep State did not report any territorial changes in this front. Those attacks are not meant to break through Russian lines. Their sole goal is to attract as much Russians as possible to the other front lines and not allow them to reinforce their brother-in-arms in Zaporozhye front. As Ukrainians try to attack almost everywhere, Russians are forced to spread their forces thin. It is also very important to note that even at this point, Ukrainians still have numerical advantage over the Russians, and Ukrainians are exploiting that fact as well. This is all I have to say for today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please consider supporting it with a like, comment, and a subscription. Again, those actions really help to promote my videos to a wider audience and helps spread the message. If you feel extra generous, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you in advance. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free and great.